My name's Dyanne Ierardo and I work for Verizon, and we're a US parented company. We have about 140,000 employees globally, and I'm responsible for human resources for the whole of international. So that's me. So I'm going to kind of walk you through a journey that we've been on this year. So firstly, I relocated to London from Australia in late December last year. And so, as you could imagine, there's all of the trials and tribulations with relocation, which, our company has handled very, very well. But coming into London, spending, like a month and a half, and then COVID hit. So if you think about our footprint, I'm going to give you a journey around the globe. So COVID hit in Asia Pacific at the end of January, early February. And so from then, and we have offices in China and throughout Asia Pacific. It was my responsibility with the global real estate teams, employee health and safety teams, and the business continuity teams to really look at our employee health and the way that we were going to mobilize our workforce. The pandemic, as you know, has been like a spider web, and it's spread right the way from Asia, right the way through now to Europe and the United States. And that happened over a period of like 6 weeks. What we did initially as a company is the first thing for us was our employee health. And so it was about mobilizing our workforce to get them to work from home, which was a huge feat in itself. And within a week, we'd mobilized our complete workforce. Predominantly our employees are in the United States. We have about 14,000 employees in international, if you take into account all of our business units. And so for us, it was getting our employees home, ensuring that they had the right equipment that they need to use, setting them up and understanding the differences with working from home, because we had some parts of the business that hasn't been the practice historically. And so it was around the way that we communicate, getting our leaders ready to be able to lead remotely. And so it became the new normal for our employees over that week to 2 weeks. We went through training and obviously a lot more emphasis on conferencing, which Steve spoke about earlier. And funnily enough, we purchased Blue Jeans about a month ago. The close happened recently. And so it was about leveraging off, ensuring that we have conferencing processes for all of our employees so that they could use them. If you think about historically, people are used to getting together and having a meeting. And so we've had to change that approach to have more of this sort of an environment, which for some areas of the business has been more of a challenge than others. The other component of health, and I know as Steve spoke through it earlier, was the whole thing of tracing employees if they were infected, the way that we communicated to families, the managing of health globally, because obviously every country has different regulations that we need to follow. But it was really ensuring that we keep our employees as the number one mindset. We then moved into what we call the new normal, which is now, and it's really about leading remotely, getting our leaders up to how that happens, what they need to do differently, the amount of check-ins they're having with their people, the eyeballing of them through conferencing, the sort of communication they're doing. But the thing that we found is that it became more social. And so our employees, funnily enough, even though they weren't sitting desk to desk alongside of each other, the amount of interactions that are happening because of this and this isolation, we've noticed that our employees the engagement seems to be even more positive. The other thing I'd like to mention to you is that what generally happens in isolation, and it happens normally around week 4 or week 5, is a thing that I call cabin fever, where employees and humans get annoyed with being isolated, that their norm is no longer their norm, that going out to the shop is not something that they can do, and working from home and not being in an office environment. So we as a company have done a lot of work around psychological health, because at the outset I talked to you about physical health and getting employees safe. But the most important thing for us right now is that whole focus on how are our employees feeling. We're promoting our employee assistance programs. We're training our leaders up and have been on how do you manage remotely? How do you have more conversations that are a little more personal in terms of check-ins? So it's not just a work conversation, but a check-in about what's going on around them. And that has fared very well. Throughout the period of the last few months, our company has also conducted pulse surveys or employee surveys, which are quick check surveys, specifically around COVID, in terms of the way they're operating, where they're working, what they need more from the company, and also, how they're feeling about their efficiency and what we can be doing as a company to help them. Our CEO and chairman and our CHRO, who are located in the United States, were holding daily sessions with all employees to dial into, so that they were communicating directly with all of our employees from a global perspective about what they find is important right now. And obviously for us, that was our employee health and safety, that of our customers, and also the community around us. And so that's another thing that we've done around comms to ensure that they're getting the global, what I call attention. Then we've had our local managers that have been running different sessions for them. And then there's the personal check-ins that have occurred. As you would have all experienced, there's been talk around the globe of countries that are opening up, and the fact that we have now parts of China which have opened, they've released their borders. And so for us as a company, we're starting to explore that return to office. And interestingly enough, and it's similar to what Melissa spoke about earlier, it's us looking differently at that footprint of what does the working model need to be going forward. And what we've noticed is that we can mobilise our workforce and get them to work from home and still get productivity, that we needed, and efficiencies. And so we're currently going through, what does that return to office look like? There are never prizes to being first in a situation like this. So it's something that we're doing slowly, obviously needing to take into account government legislation, regulations, and ensuring that we're following what the World Health Organization are telling us. But also we have our Verizon standard, and that's putting our employee health at number one. So that's started. We're doing a lot of work in the background around what does that look like, what is social distancing going to be in each of our offices for those employees that actually need to be in an office, and also exploring what about the employees that actually don't need to be in an office, and we've proven this throughout this time. What does that look like? So lots of exploration there. When I think about the lessons that we've learned, or when I reflect on what I've learned, I guess the things that have stood out for me, and we talked about this prior to coming onto this session today, just about how differently it is that people are showing up. They're showing more of their authentic self. We talked earlier about maybe a baby crying in the background, or a dog barking when you're on a conference, or people walking past you, and how historically for a lot of organisations that's not been the norm, and you get stressed out because of that. Whereas now it's a little more, what I'd say I'm noticing is a little more relaxed. And so our employees, we're placing a lot more emphasis on that personal check-in and that personal connection. And I think that's something that I've seen as a result of this, that I think even though the pandemic is shocking and the amount of lives that have been lost globally is devastating, when I look at the good thing that's come out of this is I think that our social conferencing tools and the fact that we've all globally been in it together has meant that, teams are getting closer together as a result of having this common thing that we've been experiencing. I guess the next step for us, as I said, is returning to the office. But also, as I said, looking at roles that potentially don't need to return to the office and what that looks like. And then taking it from there will obviously be all of the strategies that we need to do around mobilising the new normal for us as a corporation. I'm really, I'm very proud to work for the company that I do. And, as I said, our pulse results of the check-ins we've done has given us feedback directly to tell us that the employees feel as though we're doing all of the right things. And the most important thing, I think, throughout this whole process is the fact that we're asking them how they feel, what they need from us as a leadership team to continue to be effective and to be successful. So they're probably the biggest messages for me.